Hello ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for tuning into this short screen tutorial from historychappy.com for the Edexcel GCSE History Examination Unit 2, which is Germany 1918 to 1939, and it's the Edexcel GCSE History syllabus, the A syllabus, and it's applicable if you're taking your final examinations in either 2016 or 2017. So let's have a look at how it's broken down. Well, here are the grade boundaries for the examination which took place in summer 2015. So the grade boundaries might not be exactly the same for you, but they'll be similar, we would suggest. Out of the possible total of 54 marks for this paper, you would have needed in 2015 41 for the A star, 36 for an A, 31 for a B, and 27 for a C. So if we compare that to the grade boundaries for 2015 for the Unit 1, which was the International Relations paper, slightly more favourable. However, what we need to remember is whilst you don't necessarily need the same grasp of source skills for this paper, you do need a significant degree of specific contextual knowledge and relevant knowledge to that period there. So let's have a look at how this is broken down. Well, here are the questions: 1A, B, C, D, 2AB, we got a choice, similarly for question 3. Here is what's required and the historical focus out of your 54 marks in total. So let's go through each of these questions, look at an example question, what the mark scheme says you need to do, and then some history chappy structuring, writing frame, scaffolding for each of those questions. Let's have a look. Right. Question 1A is the source inference question. In this case, it's what can you learn from source A about the reason for the failure of the Spartacist uprising in 1919. So it's worth 4 marks. So what does the mark scheme say you need to do? Well, you need supported inference, singular or plural. A supported inference is one which uses detail from the source to prove the inference. So you'll need 1, or I would suggest probably 2, just to be sure of it, supported inferences. Now, an inference is what you can learn from the source without it directly or explicitly telling you. So you have to use your brain to work out something that you can infer or learn from the source without it definitively telling you. Now, most candidates fall in the trap of paraphrasing and just repeating or regurgitating what the source has already told them, which you won't get any credit for, so please don't do it. Now, an example of an inference is if we saw a picture of an angry footballer screaming at a referee, what we could infer is that that player has just been sent off by the referee, or the referee has given a penalty against his team. So whilst the picture may not show that, that is something we can use given our knowledge of the situation to infer. So we would give our inference. One thing we can learn from the source is give your inference here. Then you need to support it with a quote from the source. So pick a quote from the source which supports the inference that you've made. You do that well, once or twice you should get the top quota of 4 marks. Okay, question 1B is your key features question. Describe something. The key catch out here is the dates. Because economic problems in the early 1920s, everybody tends to think of hyperinflation, but that was in 1923. So if you talked about that here, you wouldn't get any credit. So just make sure you pay close attention to the dates. So for 6 marks, you are going to need some developed statements, which is a simple statement supported by factual detail. 5 to 6 marks for 2 or more developed statements. So go for 2 or 3 key features, you will be just fine. So 2 times P is all you need for top marks, as long as your points are precise, correct and well explained. About 8 minutes on the question. Now, key features can be causes, events, and or consequences. Now, your best bets here are to write about your 2 key features in chronological order. So I always do a cause and an event, and or an event and a consequence, and or a cause and an effect. So get them in chronological order. So this is how I suggest you structure it. One key feature of the historical issue you're talking about was add something really precise, specific and contextual that couldn't just be made up on the spot. So using names, dates, facts, statistics, figures, just 1 or 2 of those here to explain the chronological part you're talking about. Then move on. You haven't got to link these 2 factors in any way, shape or form. That only comes with the 8 mark questions. So 2 key features in chronological order, and you should harvest the total of 6 marks on that question. Moving on. 1C is always an effects question, so the effect of something. So in this case, it's the effect of hyperinflation in 23 on Germany and its people. So here we could talk about money losing all its value, prices going up on a daily, if not hourly basis. We could talk about people on fixed income, such as pensioners, losing all their spending and purchasing power, the middle class losing their savings, the German economy falling apart, people living on the breadline, etc., etc. So 8 marks here is what's available. So what do we need to do for 8 marks? We need to develop explanation of consequences, an explanation of 1 or more of the consequences supported by selected knowledge. So for 8 marks here, we could either have 2 or more explained statements, or 8 marks for answers which show links between the factors, and that's what I always advise my students to do. You go for effect 1, explain it using this scaffolding here or something similar. You don't need all these connectors, but they're just there to help you if you want them. Then you link them. You don't prioritize with 1C. With 1D and 1E, you can choose to either link and or prioritize. Here you just need to link. So you need your two effects linked. Now you don't necessarily have to put the linking in between these two factors, you could do it at the end. Just make sure you do it so you're more likely to harvest the full quota of 8 marks on this question. Again, you need really precise figures, facts, statistics, names, dates to support the two effects you're talking about. The rule of thumb is something that couldn't be made up on the spot. That is what specific contextual knowledge is. So 2 clear effects. I would try and split them up between political, economic, military, so you're talking about 2 different effects and 2 different sections of the population, with a link in there. That should harvest you full marks for that question. Okay, D and E, similarly they're 8 mark questions, but you can link and or prioritize or rank your factors here. So in this case, it's explain why Hitler was able to overcome opposition to the Nazis in these years. So what we need to do, well, we need to develop statements of causation. So it's about what caused or drove events in history. Okay. So you need to explain why the causes brought about the stated outcome. So 8 marks for answers which prioritise causes or demonstrate how they combine to produce the outcome. Now that's key. So if you're talking about 2 reasons why Hitler was able to overcome opposition in the years, let's say it was the SA, whatever other reasons, you'd need to show how they combined to help the Nazis overcome opposition in those years. Alright, so 2 times P, PCAL, as I call it, point, evidence, explain, keeping to the question with a sentence that just refers back to it, then linking to your next factors. With a prioritizing or linking section, all you need for top marks, as long as your points are precise, correct, and well explained. The key is to show how both causes combine to cause the specified outcome. So the way I structure it, or advise it to be structured, although it's not the only way, is to have your 2 causes with a linking and or prioritising section in the middle. Again, the same rules apply, just make sure that your 2 factors are supported by specific contextual knowledge. Dates, names, facts, figures, statistics, whatever, just make sure it's precise and tight so it doesn't look like you're trying to blag. Alright, with 2A and 2B, you get a choice here. You get to pick one or the other, don't do both. So the first one, the exemplar is explain how the Nazi Party developed in these years, or explain how the position of women changed. So this is talking about historical change. Now for 8 marks, we need 2 or more explained changes, or marks for answers which show which prioritise changes or show links between them. All right. Now the key here is if we've got an example question, it's a different one, as it so happens. Explain how the political scene in Germany changed between 1928 and the beginning of 33. The key is that you show how the situation was at the start, so in this case 1928, and then how it was at the end, 1933. So historical change isn't just explaining what happened. You'd need to show how it started and how it ends. Because, for instance, if we just say the political scene changed because there was political turmoil in between these years, well, that's not showing change because we don't necessarily know what happened before 28. We don't know if there was turmoil then, and we don't know what happened at the end. So we don't know if that's a change or not. So you'd have to say in 1928, it was a time of relative political calm with strength at the centre, strong, stable, centrist coalitions, the Nazis receiving only 2.6% of the vote in 1928. Then you'd have to show it like at 1933, where the Nazis win an electoral majority and they're able to form a government. So you'd have to show the beginning versus the end. Do that for 2 sections and you should be able to harvest top marks. As long as you include your ranking and or linking section at some point, be it in the middle of the 2 factors or at the end. So you need 2 factors, 2 historical changes, and the only way you can show change is by showing how it started and how it was at the end of that period. Otherwise, you're just explaining factors and not showing change specifically. Okay, the final question, I've got a dedicated tutorial to question 3, so I'm not going to spend too long on it. It's worth 16 marks plus a spelling, punctuation and grammar mark of 4, so it's actually worth 20, not 16. The first one is a sort of causation question, and the second one is a historical effects question. You pick either one of those. The key is you must use at least 3 factors. You don't have to use the bullet points they've given you, but you definitely do need to use at least 3 factors, and you definitely do need to bring, by definition, one of your own. You're only getting 2, so you need 3 as a minimum. All right, there's various ways of approaching this question. You could either just do it in sort of bullet point order, bullet point 1, bullet point 2, your own factor, make a judgment. You could go priority ascending, you could do the least significant, second least in most, or priority descending. It's completely up to you how you want to structure that. But you must, referring back to the question, talk about at least 3 factors linking, if it was this case, so it was propaganda, the main reason it was able to establish a dictatorship. Well, we know it's one of the reasons, but not the only. So you'd have to talk about propaganda. You'd have to talk about then at least 2 others. All right. Now, the key is here to make sure your judgment, to score between 15 and 16 marks, you must show the relative importance of 3 causes or the effects, depending on which question you're doing. So you must just show, as it says here, the most important cause effect of X was that then this is more important than the second biggest cause or effect. And then you could show how the second cause or effect is still more important than the third, or how the third is still not as important as the first. That's what you must do in your judgment. Quite simple, quite straightforward. There you go. I hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions, tweet me. Please visit historychappy.com and give us a big like on YouTube if you found it useful. Good luck with your examinations and goodbye.